Okay, I'm going to be explaining how to make a no-show sock, and you'll need to be taking a few measurements. You'll need to be taking a ball measurement with your weight on it, so the ball of your foot all the way around, so the circumference of your foot. You'll need to measure mid-ankle, where your ankle bone is halfway down your heel, okay? So ankle bone halfway down the heel. All right, and that'll get you your measurement, okay? So you have some basic calculations. So once you get that number, it'll be stitches per inch times your ball equals your number of pegs you're going to need, okay? Then you have your rows per inch times your cuff, which is the measurement between the middle of your ankle bone halfway down your heel. And then your rows per inch times your instep, okay? And again, the instep area is here, just past your heel and just past your toe, okay? So you'll get a general idea of the area your heel and toe will take up, okay? And that'll equal the number of rows for your instep. So you've got half of your answers right there. Well, normally your pegs for your heel and toe is half the pegs on the loom. So it's the number of pegs divided by 2 is number A, which is the half the pegs on the loom you'll be working with on your heel and toe. Number A divided by 3 is number B, which is the number of pegs you will decrease down to. And number B times 2 is the number of total decreases on both sides in between your number B, okay? And that's just your total number of decreases. Now, if you're going to be working on the loom like I am, which I'm going to be working on the 50 peg loom, because at 5.5 stitches per inch, which is the average between what is stretched and what is not stretched, that is what I get. And so it's 5.5 times 9, and I'm using a 1/4 inch gauge loom, okay? So 1/4 inch gauge loom with 2 strands of fingering weight, if not thinner than that, Elise stretch, which is what I'm using for making my socks right now, because I find that the socks stay on beautifully and they're comfortable. Okay, so I'm using 2, but I did a swatch. All right, so 2 strands of a fingering weight yarn on the 1/4 inch gauge loom. And so my total, and I did that up front here. So if I'm doing 2 strands of a fingering weight, my total stitches per inch is 7. My total stitches per inch completely stretched is 4. And when I added those 2 and divided them in half, it ended up being 5.5. And you don't have to have your rows per inch stretched. All right, so that's kind of how I figured that. Now, here's an example of how I'm using those numbers and how I'm working up the math for it. So the stitches per inch is 5.5, and my ball of my foot circumference is 9, which is 49.5, which I'm going to round up to 50 because I have a 50 peg loom. Okay, well, the rows per inch is 11, and you times that by 1.5, which is the measurement between my mid-ankle to halfway down my heel. And that 16.5 rows will round it up to 17 rows total for my cuff. 11, which is rows per inch, times 5, and actually that's 6 for my instep, will be 66 rows for my instep. Okay, so then I go and I need to figure out my heel stuff. So I take 50 divided by 2 is 25. Okay, so I'm using 25 pegs to do my heel and toe. 25 divided by 3 is 8.3, round down to 8. All right, that is the total number the number you'll decrease down to is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Now, because this was not even, it'll be off like 1 peg. All right, it'll just be wrapped. So technically it's 17 pegs that will be totally decreased. So that's the total number of decrease on an approximate scale. All right, with this no-show sock, I've shown a couple of toe-ups. I'm going to be doing a toe-up for the ballet sock. So this one I'm going to do a cuff down. You can do a toe-up with all these measurements and calculations. You can do a toe-up. So this is up to you. I'm going to show the video cuff down, all right, and I'm going to do an E-wrap cast on. So I'm going to do an E-wrap cast on, and I'm going to do a 3x2 rib stitch for my cuff, okay. And push those stitches down. Okay. As I said, I'm doing a 3x2 rib stitch. You want to do a rib stitch. It can be 2x2, 3x2, 3x3, 1x1. It's entirely up to you. But I can tell you, the larger your rib stitch, which, say you're doing a 3x3, the more spring you'll have to it, okay, and the more snug it'll fit. If you're doing a 3x2, which is what I'm doing because it works out evenly because it's 50 pegs, that's fine. It depends on what loom you're using, whatever works out evenly, okay? And what you want to do is you want to divide the total number set, which is this 5 pegs, of course. You want to divide that in to the number of total pegs. So, 50 divided by 5 is, of course, 10. So that's kind of how you're going to go by it. If you're going to use only 4, divide your loom peg count by 4. See if it works up evenly. You want it to work up evenly on the total number of pegs you'll be using. So I'm going to knit 3, and then I'm going to purl 2 all the way around. And in my notes I have for 17 rows for my cuff. Alright, so I'm going to be doing 17 rows of knit 3, purl 2, and then I will come back and I will show you how to do the heel. Alright, and I'm going to do a different method this time. I've been doing a different method with each sock. I'm actually going to show the full pinned method. So this is the Japanese pinned toe method that I'm going to show you for this sock. Again, you can do a yarn over, German short row, wrap and turn, whatever you prefer, or you can try this new method here. It's not common. It's nobody else has really done it on the loom yet, so it's something new to try, and I kind of like the results. So go ahead and pause the video, get your cuff done, and I'll be back to show you how to do the heel. Alright? Okay, I'm going to show you the pinned toe method. Alright? So, we know that we're using half our loom, and we need to be decreasing down to a total of 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit over 25, because that's half our loom. So there's 2. And 25. Alright, so knit it all the way halfway. And what you're going to do is you're going to slip, and then you're going to put a marker in, okay? So there's your 25th peg. You want to put a marker on your working yarn, and then what you'll do is you'll slide that marker down to its base, and then you're going to go knitting. So you're going to slip that 25th peg, put a marker on, and that marker should be in between the peg, which should be your leg or bridge. Alright, then you're going to knit your way over. See, it's in between those 2 pegs. Alright, so we're going to knit our way over back to our starting point. Okay, we're here at our starting point. We've knitted it, and what we want to do is we want to add stitch marker to our working yarn. Pull it down to the base of the working yarn that you see, and then you're going to start working back the other direction, and you'll see that it's in between those 2 pegs. Alright, and that's placing a marker, and when it's written out it says slip marker. Alright, so and then knit your way over. Okay, for some reason this thing is not wanting to focus. There it goes. Okay, so I'm going to knit my way over to the next peg, which should be, I believe it's going to be the 24th peg. Okay, you're going to knit your way over to there, And I'll show you how to add this in. Then I'll show you one more, and I'm going to tell you to pause the video and get yourself down to however many pegs you intended. Okay, and you'll see how this method works on the pinned short row heel and toe. It's also called the Japanese method. Alright, so there's peg 25, here's peg 24. Alright, okay, now what you do is you take another stitch marker, put it on that working yarn, slide it down to the base, and then make sure, let's see if I can get it to focus, it's in between the pegs. Okay, so you'll need to go ahead and knit your way over to peg 2 on the other side. Okay, I'm going to show you this one more time. I'm going to tell you to pause the video and get yourself down to 8 pegs, or 8 stitches. Alright. Okay, here we are at peg 2. Knit it. Push that down. Okay, take another stitch marker. Put it on the working yarn, slide down to the base, and make sure, so I can get the camera to focus again, that it's in between the pegs, as you can see here and here. Come on, focus there. You can see they're in between the pegs. Alright, so go ahead, pause the video, and continue this process until you have 8 stitches. Alright, in the middle. Alright, I'll show you what it'll look like. You'll have a whole bunch of pins here and a whole bunch of pins here. Alright, and the pin, the reason why it's called the pin thing, pinned short row, is because you have a whole bunch of pins in there. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video and get it down to 8 stitches, and then we will go from there, and I'll show you how the increase works on the pinned stitches. Okay, you see all those, let's see if I can get the camera to focus in. You see all those pins? Alright, what you have is, there's a pin and there's a pin, so count there in between. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches between your decreases, just like we calculated. Alright, now you may have an extra decrease because it wasn't exactly perfectly even. Alright, but it's not going to throw it off that much. Alright, I finished over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that peg, and I'm going to knit my way over to the first pin. Alright, so I'm going to knit 8. Okay, and then what you do is you bring that pin up and you pull that bridge or leg. Okay, let me see if I can get this to focus. I'm trying to get this focused so you can see more of what I'm doing. Okay, you take that first pin and you'll see there's a leg there. Okay, you're going to pull that up onto that peg. Alright, so you can pull it up onto that next peg, and you take your stitch holder off. Okay, so you pull your pin and then you knit the two together. Okay, starting with the peg you finished with, knit your way over to the other side. Okay, and you're stopping before. You're going to lift that place it onto the next peg and take the stitch marker off and knit the two pegs together. Starting with the peg you finished with, knit your way over, and I'll show you a couple more times so you have an idea of what you're doing. Knit your way over, alright, there's your next stitch marker. You're going to lift that up, place it onto the peg, okay, and lift that up. See if I can't get it to focus. Anyway, okay, you're going to lift that up and put that onto the peg. Alright, take it off. Let's pull your pin when it comes to written out, and then knit the two together. Okay, starting with the peg you finished with, knit your way over to your next pin you have in place. So there's my next pin I have in place. Lift up, place on the peg. Alright. And the thing to keep in mind so that you know where you're at, alright, you'll knit the two together. Okay, and you'll start with the peg you finished with. You're always knitting to where your next stitch marker is, and you're starting with the peg you finished with, okay? So you're knitting your way over, and if you're wondering, well, what bridge do I put that peg on, okay? Alright, so if you're sitting here thinking, well, here's my next bridge, which peg do I put it on? You want to put it on this one, okay? Because here's your center mark, alright? You knit all the way over to it, alright? Then you pull up and place on the next peg, okay? Take that off and knit two together, increasing by one. Alright, so I'm going to tell you to pause the video and complete your increase. Alright, and I'll probably show you a little trick to prevent a hole at your sides. Okay, let's go ahead and knit your way over to the next one. And so on the last increase, I will show you how to do that so that you don't have holes on the sides, okay? So pause the video, get your increasing done, and then we'll go from there. Okay, we're at the last two markers that need to be added, pins that need to be pulled. Alright, I'm going to pull this pin up to my starting peg, and this is the one where you are likely to get a hole, okay? I'm planning on doing a stockinette instep, so I'm not doing a rib stitch, so this is okay. So I'm going to knit those two together, then I'm going to wrap and turn that next peg, okay? See, I've wrapped and turned that next peg. That will save you a hole. If you do that with every single sock, you will not have a hole. Alright, and it's just that one where you would normally knit it and move your way back. If you slip it, there will still be a hole. It's just how it works. Okay, so knit your way over to your last pin that you need to pull, and then we'll be ready to start our instep. Okay, here's our last pin. Pull it up and over. take the pin off. Okay, and then you'll knit those two together, and then just knit your way around as normal. And then you'll be ready to start your instep. And if you remember that for this particular pattern was 66 rows, okay, and which means I'm fixing to do 66 rows of just knit. And when you get to that one, knit both those stitches together, and you should not have a hole. Okay, alrighty. So there is your little heel. Okay. And see that and see that. It's not as tight as the German short row, but you're not as likely to bust a peg either. Alright. So that is how you do the pinned short row, or the Japanese short row heel. Okay. Alright, so now I'm to the stockinette instep, and at this point I'm going to do 66 rows of just knit. So what you'll need to do is pause the video and get however many rows you calculated done for your instep area, and then we'll be ready to start our toe area. And you'll just repeat this method that we just did, but you may want to repeat it on the opposite side of the loom, so when you do your kitchen or clothes, if you mess up, you won't see it. Alright, and that's a trick. So if you don't ever want the closure to be seen, you do the toe on the opposite side that you did your heel. Alright, that's a trick for you. Alright, so go ahead, pause the video, get your instep done, and then I'll come back and show you how to do the toe area on the opposite side to get started, and then we'll do a kitchen or bind off. Okay, I have finished my foot part of it, the instep part, and now it's time to basically repeat what we just did here, but I'm going to do it on the other half of the loom, so my closure ends up being on the bottom, so you don't see it. And you generally don't feel it because it lands in that crease where your toes and the ball of your foot are, so you don't ever feel it. Alright, so let me get you started on how to do the Japanese short row or pinned short row on the other half of the loom. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to just knit all the way around. Okay, because the pin stitch you knit all the way to the peg that you're going to use, and because we're doing this half of the loom rather than the front half, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to knit that last one. Then we're going to take and put a pin in, and then start knitting back. And remember, we were working with the 50 peg, so it's going to be knitting over 24 because that's peg 25. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and knit peg 24. And then you're naturally going to slip that, put a pin in, pull it to the base, and then start knitting over until you get to your next pin. Okay, So I'll show you 2 more and then tell you to work your short row just like you did your heel down with your toe, and then I'll show you how to start it. And then I was planning on a Kitchener bind off, but I decided I'm going to do a regular bind off with a mattress stitch, and it's going to look like you did a Kitchener, but it's not going to have the frustration of losing a full sock you just did. Okay, alright, we're going to knit that one, then we're going to add a stitch marker to it, and then pull it to the base. There's your next pin. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more on the other side, and then I'm going to tell you to finish this decreasing down, then I'll show you the increasing out again. But it's the same exact way you did the heel if you want to skip this section, and you can go ahead and do the toe just like you did the heel if you know what's going on, and you can go ahead and just regularly bind off. If you're not sure what's going on, you can just follow the video as you would. Okay, we're here at the last one. We're going to put our stitch holder on there and drive it to the base and start working back. Okay, at this point, I believe I worked down to 8 for this particular one, and if you're working down, you just work down to your one, you just exactly the same as you did your heel. Okay, so decrease down using your pins, and then when you come back, we'll work on showing you the increase out again, and then we'll go from there to do the finishing of the toe, finishing of the sock. Okay, as you can see, I have all my pins in, and I'm ready to increase out. So what you want to do, start with the peg you finished with, and you're going to knit your way over 8. Okay, then you get to your first pin, and then what you want to do is you want to pull the pin and then you want to knit the 2 stitches together. Okay, let's see, make sure you want to knit the 2 stitches together. Alright, then you're going to start with the peg you finished with. You're going to knit your way back the other direction, and then you're going to pull up that pin and place it onto the peg. And knit the 2 stitches together. Starting with the peg you finished off with, knit your way over. I'll show you this just a couple of times on your increase, and then I'll let you go ahead and complete your increase. Okay. Then you're going to pull up your next pin and place it onto the peg. And knit the 2 stitches together. I'm going to make sure I get both those strands in there. Here we go. Okay, then start with the peg you finished with and knit your way over. Okay, then you're going to pull up your next pin. This is the last one I'll show you, and place it onto the peg. And then you're going to knit the 2 stitches together. Now I'm going to tell you right now, while you may be inclined to just pull the whole bunch of things up, it doesn't work the same. I've done it on one half where I pulled all of them up at once, and actually got holes. So when you do it in one at a time, you don't have the holes that show up, okay? Now when you get to the last one, which is right here, and you get ready to go back, do a wrap and turn on the next peg, and that'll save you from getting a hole on this side, okay? So go ahead and pause the video and add all your pins back in, do a wrap and turn, and then work your way to here and do a complete row, all right, after that. So add all your pins back in and then do a complete row of knit, and then we'll be ready to do bind off. Okay, I've completed my toe, as you can see, and now I'm ready to do my bind off, and I'll show you how to do a mattress stitch. Okay, so what you want to do on your bind off is just a regular bind off. You're going to knit peg 1 and 2, take stitch 2, move it back to peg 1, toss the bottom loop over, and move the stitch over. Now, we're not going to knit that first peg now. Now we're just going to knit that second peg, move that second stitch to peg 1, toss the bottom loop over, and move it over. Knit peg 2, take that second loop, move it back to peg 1, toss that bottom loop over, and move it over. Knit the second peg, take that second stitch, move it to peg 1, toss the bottom loop over, and move it over. You're going to do this all the way around, okay? So pause the video, get yourself bind it off. Don't snip the end yet. I'll show you the last peg, and there's something that I like to do when I get to the last peg. So get yourself to the last peg, and I'm going to show you something that I do. And then you'll definitely want to have a long tail cut for doing your mattress stitch. Okay, so when you go to do the last one, which I've already got it down to 1, what I like to do is take the edge of my first chain, which you can see right there, pull it back, and toss the bottom loop over, wrap it one more time, and then you can pull it through, okay? And then it's time to show you how I do the mattress stitch. So let me pull that through, and then I'll thread my needle. Alright. And here's where you're wanting to try to flatten this up to line it up, okay? And this will be fun, because you're trying to find those first stitches above and below, alright? Alrighty. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to find our first real stitch, which, there it goes. Okay, so we want to find our first official thing, and we're going to stick that needle behind the full stitch. You see that? See? There it is. You get it behind that full stitch, alright, and you send it through. Alright, so you send that through. Make sure we get the full stitching through. Okay. Then you want to go in and find your, because we sent it through there, and we want to find the first real stitch through here. So what we want to do is we want to send it through here. Okay. You try to get it as cleanly as possible. Alright. You'll pull it through. And the getting it started is where your challenge is, okay? Alright. So then what you want to do is you want to go to the next one, which would be this one, and you want to send it behind, and it's finding that first real stitch to send it behind, okay? Because we sent it behind that one, so we're wanting to find our first stitch and send it behind. So let's see if you can see that. See, there was your first, you can see its column. We did that one, and then we did that. Okay, and you're going to pull it okay. Then you're going to find the next one. Okay, so what you want to do is pull it behind this stitch here. It'll focus. Pull it behind that stitch on the opposite side corresponding. Try to keep up with your columns, okay? Then you're going to come back up to the other side, and you're going to try to find the next one, which should be, here was the last one. Hold on. Here's the last one. Here's going to be the next one, and you're going to send it behind. Okay. So you're going to send that behind it. Alright. Then you're going to go to the corresponding side. Okay. And you're going to find the last one that you did. And you're going to send it through there, which is where you're sending it in between. So you're going to send it through there as best you can. All right. Okay. Getting this started. Okay. Then we're going to come back over here. We're going to find our next column. There was our last one. See if I can get it to focus. Okay. There was our last column there. It to focus. Here's our last column there. We're going to go over to this one, find the base of it. Okay, so we're going to find the base of it as best we can. Send it behind. Send it behind. Alright. Okay. You should start to seeing it close off over here. See? Alright. Then you're going to go and you're going to hunt down the corresponding side. You're going to send it behind there. And you're going to come back over here again. You're going to find the next column. You can see there's the last one we did. So we want to go over to the next column and send it behind there. And you're just going to keep doing this back and forth until you have it. And you want to try to keep the tensioning as even as possible as you're doing this, okay? And then you're going to come to the other side and you're going to send it behind the first available stitch again, okay? And pull it through. Okay, pull that through. And there you can see what you have going. Okay, so you just keep doing this all the way across, finding the next column, sending it behind. Okay, and you're following a patterning, okay, is what you're doing. To create what looks more like a Kitchener, but you didn't have to worry about losing a stitch. And the thing is, the way that I've done it, if it doesn't come out perfect, guess what? There's your heel, it's on the bottom. So that's basically how you go in and you do the mattress stitch. So we're going to go over to our next one and we're going to send it behind. Pull it through. So you're finding the columns, you're looking for something that's going to look like it's a stacking method is what you're after, okay? So you want it to look like you're stacking it, and that's what hides it, okay? So, for instance, okay, let me see if I can get this to focus. Okay, you see how it's going up behind? You see that? Okay, that's what you're wanting to do, is go up behind it. Alright, and that makes it look like you've knitted it when you send the yarn up behind it. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that column that goes and looks like it wraps up behind it like a stack. And that's what you're doing on both sides, trying to find where that is, okay? And there's this one here, which is our next one, okay? And if you see that, it looks like it's stacking up, okay? So you're going to grab that and send it through, all right? And you just keep doing this back and forth all the way across and trying to keep the tensioning as consistent as possible. And this is what you get, okay? So there you have it. You can do your mattress stitch. You can do a whip stitch too if you don't want to do this method, okay? But that's the mattress stitch. And the great thing is if you mess up, you don't lose the sock, all right? You're just kind of like practicing to get it and see if you can get it all nice and smooth looking like that, all right? So that is how you go and make an ankle sock using the pinned heel, pinned or Japanese short row heel, and doing a bind off with a mattress stitch. And you see how that is starting to come out. Okay, so that is how that is done. And the thing is you can use the same method. You can use any short row heel method you want, any short row toe you want, and you can even do a regular Kitchener bind off, or you can do a whip stitch with just a bind off with a regular whip stitch, okay? And that is how you make a no-show sock.